Forced into a marriage with a criminal billionaire. But his dark secrets could save my sister's life. Part 2. The next morning, I woke up to a folder on the table. My name was handwritten across the top. Inside, everything. Every document, every email, every connection between Sebastian, Barrow and Finch, and the Vales. With a note. Do it your way. I'll follow your lead. Dominic. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't move me, but because I realized something terrifying. He trusted me with the war now, and if I failed, he might not survive it. The charity gala was Sebastian's favorite playground. All those cameras, all those powerful friends, all that ego. It was the perfect place to smile and stab. Dominic and I arrived like a headline. He wore black on black, sharp as a secret. I wore red. Not just red. Blood red. Myra's favorite dress, tailored to perfection. The entire room turned. Even Sebastian. His eyes widened for just a flicker. Then he smiled. Elena, he said, raising a champagne glass. You look reborn. Rebirth suits me, I replied, voice soft and razor-edged. We mingled. Posed for press. Laughed at things that weren't funny. Sebastian was too calm. Too unreadable. Which meant one thing. He didn't know what we had. Dominic leaned close, whispering in my ear. The files are backed up. My lawyer is on standby. When you say the word. I nodded. Tonight, I whispered, he walks right into it. At exactly 9:32 p.m., the stage lights dimmed for the Foundation's annual donation announcement. Sebastian was the keynote. Of course he was. He strutted onto stage with charm in his pocket and lies on his lips. It's about building a future, he said, smiling at the cameras. One where trust and integrity guide our every step. I stepped out from the corner. Microphone in hand. Live feed still rolling. Then let's talk about integrity, I said, my voice clear, calm, and echoing across the hall. The room froze. Seba. Miss Vale, the host stammered. I nodded, walking forward slowly. I have something to share. About the real cost of trust. About my sister Myra Vale. Dominic stood behind the crowd, stone-faced, arms crossed. Everyone turned toward me. Cameras panned. And I began to read. Line by line. The recording. The forged documents. The money trail. The blackmail. Sebastian lunged forward. This is defamation, he growled. No, I said, turning toward the screen behind me. It's the truth. The projector clicked. Sebastian's voice filled the room. You were just the middle. Gasps. Chairs scraped. Whispers turned to roars. It was over in minutes. Security approached. Sebastian shouted, threatened, demanded lawyers. But the spotlight didn't move. And neither did I. Outside, Dominic took my hand. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Because for the first time, the war felt winnable. We didn't make it to morning. By midnight, our phones were ringing non-stop. News stations. Blogs. Social media erupting. Sebastian March exposed. Billionaire lawyer accused of fraud, blackmail, and conspiracy. It was everywhere. But so was the silence that followed. The kind of silence that makes your skin crawl. The kind that tells you, the powerful are watching. At 3:14 a.m., the first warning arrived. Dominic's company website was hacked. A black screen. 3 words, blinking. You chose wrong. By sunrise, every bank account tied to Myra's trust was frozen. Her charity seized under federal review. Anonymous threats flooded Dominic's private email. By 10 a.m., it got worse. My father's house, where my mother still lived, was ransacked. Nothing stolen. Just wrecked. Drawers ripped out. Photos smashed. Myra's childhood necklace left broken on the floor. Dominic and I arrived before the police. My mother was shaking, wrapped in a blanket, refusing to speak. She's okay, my father said, voice trembling. But whoever did this, they WAN. That we weren't fighting Sebastian anymore. We were fighting something older. Darker. That evening, Dominic stood in the hallway, fists pressed to the wall. I should have seen it coming, he muttered. No, I whispered, stepping beside him. They want us to regret it. That means it's working. He turned to me. But now they know you're not afraid. I nodded. And that scares them more than anything. We had dinner in silence that night. Not because there was nothing to say, but because war eats language. It turns hope into strategy, and grief into focus. At 1 a.m., the doorbell rang. We both stood. Neither of us breathed. Dominic moved first, gun drawn. He opened the door slowly, and froze. It was Ava, our housekeeper. Face bloody, lips swollen, hands trembling. They came to my apartment, she whispered. Said I needed to remember who I worked for, and who I was protecting. I caught her before she collapsed. Ava was resting in the guest room. Her face was bruised. Her spirit wasn't. I didn't tell them anything, she whispered, gripping my hand. I would never betray your sister. Or you. You didn't need to, Dominic said, voice cold. They already knew what you meant to us. That night, he disappeared into the basement office. When he re-emerged at dawn, his eyes were red. His jaw was locked. I found something, he said. He pulled up an encrypted server, one even his government contacts didn't know he still had access to. Old money trails. Shell companies. Foundations, offshore trusts, fake names stacked inside fake corporations. But they all led to the same core. The Phoenix Circle. An elite, secret syndicate buried inside old money. Quiet investors. Judges. Politicians. Corporate kings. And yes, lawyers. Sebastian had been their dog. But not the mastermind, I murmured. Dominic nodded. There's someone else. Someone above him. The more we uncovered, the more I realized how deep it went. Every time Myra tried to pull away, they yanked harder. Every donation she made, they traced. Every article she pitched, they blocked. When she stopped playing their game, they ended hers. Why keep us alive? I asked, staring at the endless web of lies. Why let us get this far? Dominic turned slowly. Because they think we're too small to win. And because they haven't seen what we're willing to become. We needed someone who had touched that world. Someone who had once been in it, and walked away. Someone with blood on their hands and secrets in their pockets. So we made the call. To his father. Vincent Russo hadn't spoken to Dominic in 10 years. Not since he stepped away from the very empire Dominic now wanted to burn down. He lived alone. No press. No trace. But the moment Dominic said Myra's name, he agreed to meet. At an abandoned vineyard, we waited in silence. And then he arrived. Black coat. Silver hair. Eyes sharp as razors. He looked at me first. You're Elena Vale, he said. Yes. He turned to Dominic. And you're ready to do what I wouldn't. Dominic nodded. Good, Vincent said, lighting a cigarette. Because once you start, you don't come back. The vineyard smelled like old wood and secrets. Vincent poured himself a drink, neat, no ice, and sat across from us like he was hosting a family dinner, not a war council. You want to bring down the Phoenix Circle, he said, as if we were asking for the weather forecast. You'll need leverage. And blood. A lot of it. Dominic folded his arms. I don't want casualties. I want collapse. Vincent smirked. That's what I said. Right before I became their puppet. He laid it out for us. The circle didn't just operate in shadows, they owned them. Judges. Banks. Media. Police. Even politicians wore suits they tailored. But there was one name. One man. Who sat higher than all of them. Victor Fenwick. The ghost behind the circle. Dead on paper. Alive in every boardroom. If we wanted to dismantle the circle, we had to find him. Victor never leaves London, Vincent said. He's surrounded by false trails and tighter security than most world leaders. And what's your price? Dominic asked, voice flat. Vincent leaned back in his chair. You break into Phoenix Estate. Plant this. He handed over a small black drive. Dominic narrowed his eyes. What is it? Everything, Vincent said, softly. Bank accounts. Client lists. Names of victims they bought and buried. Even your sister's file. My breath caught. You have Myra's file? Vincent nodded. I do. But it's encrypted. Fenix servers are the key. Dominic's jaw clenched. You want me to walk into his stronghold? Risk everything. For your data. Vincent met his eyes. I want you to be the man they fear. Or walk away now and bury her twice. We drove home in silence. The sky was storming. Inside the car, so were we. Finally, I broke it. You're going to do it. Dominic stared ahead. I have to. I looked at him. But what will it turn you into? He didn't answer. He just reached for my hand. And whispered, whatever I become, it ends with him. The night before he left, we didn't sleep. We just lay there, forehead to forehead, fingers intertwined like we were trying to memorize the shape of each other's hands. I don't want you to go, I whispered. I know, Dominic said, voice thick. He kissed my forehead, then my mouth, soft, deep, slow. Like it was the last one. By 6 a.m., he was gone. No entourage. No security. Just a single man walking into the lion's den with a drive full of vengeance. I watched from the window as his car disappeared into the dawn mist. And then I turned around and made a decision. If he was going to war, so was I. I started with Myra's old laptop. It was encrypted, buried in a closet inside my parents' attic. But Myra had always been clever. And reckless. 3 failed passwords. 1 successful guess. Love you, Len. Inside was everything she never said out loud. Emails. Voice memos. Photos. A secret folder labeled Do Not Open. So of course, I did. Inside was a video. Myra, sitting in her old apartment. Tired. Pale. But determined. If you're watching this, she said, then I'm gone. And I know it wasn't an accident. I pressed my hand to my mouth. She looked into the camera, straight into me. They'll tell you it was a suicide. Or an overdose. Or a breakdown. But you know better. And so does Dominic. He tried to warn me once. I didn't listen. She paused. Don't cry for me, Lena. Finish what I couldn't. Burn every last one of them. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called Ava into the room. You said you wanted to help, I said. She nodded. Good. I need everything you remember about the circle. Names, faces, whispers, everything. We're not waiting for Dominic. We're preparing his landing. Meanwhile, halfway across the world, Dominic stood outside a massive estate outside London. Tall gates. Stone walls. Armed guards. The final lair. He adjusted the collar of his coat and took one deep breath. Then he pressed the buzzer. A cold voice crackled back. Name. He didn't blink. Dominic Rousseau. Tell Victor Fenech I've come to return something he lost. The gates didn't creak when they opened. They whispered. The estate wasn't a home, it was a kingdom. Grey stone. Ivy. Statues of lions with cold, hollow eyes. Dominic walked slowly, his boots tapping against the polished cobblestone. He had no weapons. Only the black drive in his coat pocket, and Myra's name in his heart. 2 men in suits met him at the grand doors. No words. Just a nod. They led him through marbled corridors that smelled like old money and expensive secrets. Past oil paintings of men who'd owned the world. Past locked doors and blinking cameras. And then, they stopped. A heavy oak door opened with a soft groan. Inside, Victor Fenech was waiting. He didn't rise. He didn't smile. He didn't look like a villain. He looked like a professor. Or a banker. Or the grandfather you'd never suspect. But his eyes, those eyes. They were black. Not the color. The feeling. You've grown, Fenech said, voice soft and clean. Last time I saw you, you were still pretending to be your father's conscience. Dominic didn't flinch. Last time I saw you, you were selling girls younger than my sister to the highest bidder. A slow smile curled Fenech's mouth. You've come to threaten me? I've come to end you. Fennec stood slowly. He was tall. Slower now, older. But not weak. There are two kinds of men, Dominic, he said. Those who build systems, and those who scream beneath them. You built yours on corpses, Dominic said. Fennec stepped closer. And you're no different. Not anymore. He pulled something from his drawer, a photo. It was Elena. Taken 2 days ago, from across the street. She's quite beautiful, Fennec said, casually. Too good for you. Like your sister was too good for your father. Dominic's hands clenched into fists. Touch her, he whispered, and I won't leave ashes behind. Just whispers that you ever existed. Fennec didn't flinch. He handed Dominic a keycard. You want to burn me down, he said. Then go. Plug in your little virus. Steal your little files. See what it gets you. Dominic narrowed his eyes. You're letting me do this? Fennec's smile chilled the air. I'm giving you a choice. Walk in, and realize how little it changes. Or walk away, and keep believing in the lie that you matter. Downstairs, behind 5 levels of security and 2 armed men, Dominic entered a vault-like server room. He stood there in the blue light, the hum of power surrounding him. He pulled the drive from his coat. Stared at it. And Myra's voice whispered in his head. Finish what I couldn't. He slotted the drive into the port. Upstairs, Fennec poured a drink and looked out the window. Let's see what your rage buys you, Dominic Russo, he murmured. And whether it costs more than your soul. The drive blinked red. Then green. Then, nothing. Dominic stared at the screen. It wasn't reacting. No prompt. No firewall. No security breach. Just stillness. Too still. He took a step back. And then the lights went out. Sirens screamed overhead. Doors slammed shut behind him. Thick, iron, magnetic. Dominic spun around as red lights pulsed inside the server room. Not an alarm. A lockdown. And above him, through the hidden speakers, Victor Fennec's voice echoed. You're not the first man who's tried to bring down my house, he said. But you might be the last one foolish enough to try it alone. Dominic rushed to the mainframe. The screen had changed. Now there was a single message, glowing like blood. Welcome to the inside, Dominic. He gritted his teeth. He knew this wasn't about files. It was a test. A punishment. A game. At that same moment. Back home in Manhattan. Elena stepped out of her brownstone to meet Ava on the sidewalk. But she didn't see the black SUV parked across the street. The one without license plates. The one with tinted windows. The one that had been there for 3 days. Inside, a man whispered into a radio. She's moving. Green light. A static-filled voice replied. Wait until she's alone. We want her to understand what this costs him. Elena sensed it. A chill behind her shoulder. That prickling sixth sense. She turned. Nothing. Just the breeze. Just the city. Just, wrong. She walked faster, gripping her phone. Ava met her 2 blocks down. I found something, Ava said, breathless. It's not just blackmail. Myra was investigating the Circle's finances. Offshore accounts, bribed officials, underground transport. They were funneling. She stopped. Elena's face had gone pale. What's wrong? Ava asked. I think I'm being watched, Elena whispered. Ava's eyes flicked behind her. 2 blocks back, the SUV pulled away. Meanwhile, back in London, Dominic found the exit sealed. His fists slammed against the metal. You wanted me here, what is this? He shouted. Fennec's voice echoed calmly. This is the part where you learn that justice doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes, it looks like silence. A second screen lit up. Live footage. Of Elena. Standing beside Ava. Just steps from their apartment. Dominic's heart stopped. I told you, Fennec murmured, you may walk into my house, but your leash is still mine. Dominic roared. He grabbed the drive, ripped it from the terminal, and stormed back through the vault. But the doors were locked. The servers were untouched. And now, the game was over. London. Dominic's shoulder slammed into the vault door again. Pain shot through his arm, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Not with Elena's face still burning on that screen. She had no idea what was coming. He took a breath, turned, and scanned the room. There had to be another exit. Another weakness. Then, a vent in the ceiling. Narrow. Sharp-edged. But just wide enough. He climbed the rack, shoved his fists through the grate, and pulled himself up into the duct. The metal tore at his jacket, sliced across his arm. Still, he crawled. The estate groaned around him like a beast, angry, ancient, and watching. New York. Elena was in the stairwell of her building. Alone for just a moment. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated. Answered. Hello. Silence. Then. A voice. Soft. Male. Your husband should have known better, Elena. She froze. Who is this? She whispered. You don't need to know my name. Just know this: when the lights go out, run. Don't look back. Don't scream. Click. The line went dead. She turned and ran down the stairs. Burst through the lobby doors. Ava was already outside, waving a folder. Lena. Then the power cut. Streetlights blinked off. The brownstone behind them went dark. And from the alley, two figures stepped forward. Black coats. Black gloves. No faces. Elena's breath caught. Ava grabbed her hand. Run, she screamed. They took off. Elena's feet pounded the pavement, her lungs burning. She could hear them behind, silent, precise, methodical. Trained. They weren't chasing. They were herding. London. Dominic dropped from the vent into a hallway. He was bleeding. But he was free. He didn't stop to rest. He tore open a fire exit, bolted through the garden, scaled the stone wall, and vanished into the night. Only one thought in his mind. Elena. New York. Ava and Elena ducked into a parking garage. But it was empty. Echoing. And as soon as they stepped inside, the gate slammed down behind them. Elena turned. A man stood in the shadows. Not masked. Not hiding. He was smiling. Well, he said, you're even prettier than your sister. Elena's blood froze. You knew Myra, she said, barely breathing. I helped break her, he replied, casually. And now, Dominic thinks he can walk into our house and steal back your name like it's a game. He must still be new to how this works. Ava stepped in front of her. You touch her, and I swear. The man pulled a knife. And smiled. The knife caught the light. Just a flicker. A whisper. But Elena saw it. Ava stepped in front of her again, brave, defiant. Her hands were shaking. The man's smile didn't move. You think I won't? He asked softly. You think you matter more than she did. I think you're a coward, Ava spat. He lunged. Elena didn't think. She grabbed the nearest object. A rusted tire iron from the ground. And swung. It cracked against his ribs. The man stumbled. Ava kicked him hard in the knee, and he dropped to one side. But not for long. He came up fast, knife raised, fury wild in his face. And then, gunshots. 2 sharp cracks. The man froze. Blood bloomed in his shirt. Behind him, in the garage's mouth, Dominic. Breathless. Bloody. His pistol still smoking. Elena, he shouted. She ran to him. He caught her in his arms, pressing her face to his chest. Are you hurt? He asked, voice raw. No, I'm okay, she said, trembling. He looked at Ava, who gave him a breathless nod. I called the cops, she said. But I doubt they'll do much. Dominic glanced at the man on the floor. Still conscious. Bleeding. I don't need the cops, he said darkly. I just need a name. The man coughed, blood in his teeth. You're already dead, Russo. You just haven't noticed yet. Dominic stepped closer. You're going to take me to your boss. The man laughed. You already met him. You're just too stupid to know it. Dominic's heart turned cold. Victor wasn't working alone. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ava looked at Elena. We have to go. Now. Dominic nodded. He grabbed the man's phone. then hauled Elena and Ava out of the garage. They disappeared into the night as the cops arrived. They didn't go back to the brownstone. They didn't go anywhere familiar. They hid. In an old apartment Ava had kept under a fake name, something from Myra's days as a whistleblower. And there, in the darkness, Elena finally broke. "I thought I was strong," she whispered, sitting on the floor. "You are," Dominic said gently, kneeling beside her. "No. I'm angry." "That's not the same thing." Dominic looked at her for a long moment. "Anger isn't weakness, Elena," he said quietly. "It's proof you haven't given up yet." She looked up at him. "I want to finish what she started." Dominic reached into his coat, pulled out the black drive. The one Fennec let him take. "He wanted us to run," Dominic murmured. "He thought this would scare us into hiding." Elena took the drive from him. Her hands were steady now. "Then let's stop running." The apartment was dim. Flickering fluorescent lights. Dust in the corners. Old furniture Myra once used when she needed to disappear. Now it was their war room. Dominic plugged in the drive. The screen lit up, lines of encrypted files scrolling. Ava sat at the corner desk, typing furiously. She was Myra's closest friend. And now she was decoding Myra's final message. "It's not just finance," Ava said, eyes wide. "There's video evidence. Testimonies. Wire transfers. Bribes to judges, police, senators. This isn't just Victor, this is a network." Dominic leaned over her shoulder. "Then let's burn it down." Elena sat at the window. She could see the city. The life below. All those people who had no idea a predator like Victor Fennec ruled over them from the shadows. But more than that. She could feel Myra. This was her sister's war. And now, it was hers. They built a list. Names. Places. Connections. Every link Myra died for. They started sending anonymous leaks to journalists, one at a time. Each file layered, sourced, undeniable. And slowly, the buzz began. Within 2 days, one senator stepped down. By the end of the week, a district judge was arrested. Victor didn't respond publicly, but his people did. Coded threats. Vanishing tales. A car bomb that didn't quite go off. Dominic took it as a message. But he sent one back. They reached out to Myra's old contacts, journalists, hackers, whistleblowers. Most were scared. But one man answered. Julian Kane. A former MI6 operative turned rogue. He met them in a Brooklyn church, empty, cold, echoing. "You're Myra's people?" he asked, stepping from the shadows. "Yes," Dominic said. Julian studied Elena. "You look just like her." She nodded, jaw tight. "We have her drive. We want to finish what she started." Julian raised an eyebrow. "Then let's do it the way she always wanted, loud." They planned the release. A full data drop. Unfiltered. Names. Faces. Numbers. A firestorm. Julian would secure the digital channels. Ava would cede it to the press. Dominic and Elena, they'd be the voice. Not just anonymous ghosts, but real people. Standing in the open. On the night of the upload, Elena stood in front of a camera. She took a breath. Her hair was tied back. Her eyes steady. Her voice low. "My name is Elena Cortez. I was married to Dominic Russo. But this isn't about love. It's about debt. About power. About the people who believe they can own our lives, our bodies, our families, and never pay the price." She looked directly at the lens. "They killed my sister to keep us quiet. But we're done being quiet." The upload went live at midnight. The files spread like wildfire. Across encrypted channels, press inboxes, dark web mirrors, public forums. Names. Faces. Dates. Every dollar moved in the shadows. By morning, half the city knew the name Victor Fennec. By noon, the other half was asking why he hadn't been arrested yet. Elena watched it unfold from the safe house. The anchor on TV held up a photo, Myra, smiling, standing beside a younger Elena. Elena Cortez, the woman behind today's explosive leak, is believed to be the sister of whistleblower Myra Cortez, who was found dead in 2021 under suspicious circumstances. The anchor hesitated, and whose death, many now believe, was not a suicide. Elena swallowed hard. Dominic placed a hand on her back. "She's not just a file anymore," he said softly. "She's a face." Outside, the world was waking up. But inside the circle, panic had already begun. Victor stared at the screen in his penthouse. He was still in his robe, still drinking his morning scotch. But his hand was trembling. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. His lawyer said nothing. Victor turned slowly toward him. "Find them." That night, the fire came. Not metaphorically. The safe house burned. Julian smelled smoke first, then came the low whoosh of flames licking through the hallway. Ava grabbed her laptop. Dominic grabbed Elena. And together, they ran down the back stairwell, through the alley, into the freezing dark. But it was too clean. Too precise. They hadn't meant to kill them. They meant to scare them. To say, "We're still in control." They found a new place to hide deeper underground. Julian's contacts worked fast to shield their signals, route their locations, change their IDs again. But it didn't stop the price from rising. $1 million bounty went up the next day. Elena's face, in black and white, at the top of every hit list in 3 languages. Still, she didn't back down. "Let them come," she said coldly, watching the news. "If they're chasing me, it means they're not chasing someone else." Dominic looked at her. Something had changed in her eyes. Not fear. Not grief. Something steel-hard. Resolve. Meanwhile, the city cracked. A senator was arrested live on air. A judge was found dead, his pockets full of shredded cash and his secrets. One of Victor's board members fled the country. And for the first time in years, Victor Fenwick gave a press conference. He stood on a podium, flanked by lawyers and paid loyalty. "This attack," he said, "is a smear campaign. A lie crafted by dangerous vigilantes who want to dismantle the fabric of order in this country. I will not bow. I will not run." He paused. "And neither should you." Elena watched him. She didn't blink. "He's scared," she whispered. Ava nodded. "Yeah. But scared men make stupid moves." Dominic turned from the TV. "Then let's help him make one." Elena's phone buzzed again. Another message. Another warning. "They know where you are." Her breath hitched. Dominic caught the change instantly. "Show me." She handed over the screen. Coordinates. A time. A name. A hitman's alias known in the city's darkest corners. "They want us dead," she said quietly. Dominic nodded, voice low and steady. "They're losing control. And scared people fight dirty." Elena clenched her fists. "This isn't just about me or Myra anymore. It's about all the people they've crushed." Ava looked over her shoulder, eyes fierce. "Then let's make sure they remember who fights back." That night, the safe house was silent. Too silent. Every shadow seemed to watch. Elena paced. Her mind raced. But then Dominic spoke, voice calm. "We fight smart. We don't give them what they want, fear." She stopped, meeting his gaze. "How?" He pulled out a plan, a risky one. "We lure Victor's men out. Expose them. Use their own game against them." Elena swallowed, nodding. "We do this together." The next days were a blur. Surveillance, whispered phone calls, coded messages. But when the trap was set, Elena was ready. Face to face with one of Victor's enforcers, she felt the fire Myra once had. "You think this scares me," she said, voice steady but icy. "You're just the beginning." He faltered. And that's when Dominic stepped forward. "This ends tonight." The city's shadows deepened as Elena sat alone in the dim apartment. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from the weight of what had come. Ava entered quietly, carrying a small box. Inside, photos. Photos of the people who'd paid the price for speaking out. Whistleblowers gone missing. Friends broken by threats. Myra's own face, pale and distant in the memory. Elena's voice was barely a whisper. "They're not just fighting us, they're fighting everyone who dares to stand." Dominic joined them, exhaustion lining his face. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," he said, pulling her close. "But we can't stop now." Elena nodded, eyes shining with fresh fire. "We'll fight for every lost voice. For every stolen life." The next morning brought tragedy. Ava didn't wake. The overdose was clean, no signs of struggle. A message. A warning. Elena's world shattered, pain slicing through her like a blade. But through her tears, a fierce resolve burned brighter. "They want us broken," she whispered. "But I'll make sure they regret it." Dominic held her tighter. "We'll take this fight to the end. Together." The media storm grew, public outrage boiling over. Victor's empire was cracking. But Elena knew the true cost was only beginning to show. The courtroom was packed. Cameras flashing, whispers swirling like storm winds. Elena stood at the front, heart pounding, hands steady. This was the moment Myra died for. The evidence was overwhelming. Files, testimonies, the truth finally impossible to hide. Victor Fenwick sat across the room, face pale but defiant. He sneered. "You think this ends here?" he spat. Elena met his gaze. "No," she said firmly. "But it starts here." The judge's gavel fell. A verdict read aloud. Guilty on all counts. Victor's empire crumbled beneath the weight of truth. As officers led him away, Elena felt a fierce peace wash over her. Myra's fight was over. But their fight, Elena's, Dominic's, Ava's, was just beginning. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. Elena turned to Dominic. "We did it," she whispered. Dominic smiled, pulling her close. "For Myra. For every sister they tried to silence." Weeks later, Elena visited Myra's grave. She placed a single white rose. "Your name is clear now," she murmured. "You're free. And so are we." The sun broke through the clouds, warm and bright. And for the first time in years, Elena smiled. The end.